From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017. Silver is trading at $16.86 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,256 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 2.2 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,466. Antiwar.com reports polling shows Democratic Party Korea candidate Moon Jae-in as an overwhelming front-runner in the upcoming presidential vote with more than double the support of any other candidate. He is, however, seen as far from ideal from the U.S. perspective, favoring diplomacy with North Korea as he does. The split between Moon and Trump is so dramatic, in fact, that Moon has felt the need to publicly warn the U.S. about meddling in the nation's politics, not just directly in the election itself, but also with policy decisions made in the lead-up to the election. Indeed, Moon and his allies warn that the biggest problem is the U.S. rushing through measures in the lame duck government ahead of the election, noting that agreements on things like the THAAD anti-missile system and then hastily putting the system in place before any public hearing or environmental assessment were allowed to take place. Analysts even suggest that President Trump's talks of making South Korea pay for the THAAD might help Moon because he is seen as more likely to stand up to the U.S. on the deployment and doesn't feel particularly wedded to any agreements on the deployment which were made in the post-impeachment pre-election environment specifically to avoid real political debate.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.info, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.info today to find out more.
UPI reports the U.S. Department of Justice will not file charges against two police officers involved in the controversial shooting death of Alton Sterling in Louisiana last year. Video of the incident showed Sterling pinned to the ground by arresting officers before multiple shots were fired. The video prompted widespread protest and an investigation by the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Federal prosecutors, though, don't feel there's enough evidence to file civil rights charges against the officers in the case. Sources familiar with the department's decision confirmed the news on Tuesday. East Baton Rouge Mayor-President Sharon Weston Broome said she was appalled to hear of the DOJ's decision from news reports without a formal decision being relayed to the Sterling family first. Early on Tuesday, Michael T. Slager, a former South Carolina police officer who fatally shot motorist Walter Scott 2 years ago in another high-profile case, pled guilty as part of an agreement with federal prosecutors. Under that deal, Slager pled guilty to a single count of excessive force to deprive Scott of his civil rights. He is expected to be sentenced later this year.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports the National Security Agency collected more than 150 million records of Americans' phone calls last year, even after Congress supposedly limited its ability to collect bulk phone records, according to an annual report issued on Tuesday by the top U.S. intelligence officer. The report from the Office of Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, was the first measure of the effects of the 2015 USA Freedom Act, which supposedly limited the NSA's ability to collect phone records and contacts of people the NSA and allied intelligence agencies suspect may have ties to terrorism. The report found that the NSA collected the 150 million records even though it had warrants from the secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to spy on only 42 suspects in 2016, in addition to a handful identified the previous year. The report came as Congress faced a decision on whether to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which permits the NSA to collect foreign intelligence information on non-U.S. persons outside the U.S. and is scheduled to expire at the end of this year. The report did not address how frequently the FBI obtained information about Americans while investigating a foreign intelligence matter, however. On Friday, the NSA said it had stopped a form of surveillance that allowed it to collect the digital communications of Americans who mentioned a foreign intelligence target in their messages without a warrant. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.